Hey everyone, this is Brett Favre, Green Bay Packers Super Bowl champion, and you're watching Packers Total Access Live, your daily source for Packers content. Go Packers.
What's up, guys? Welcome into Packers Total Access. My name is Clayton. You can check us out on Packernet.com. Find me on Twitter at Packers_access. Joined alongside Emilio in Tennessee. Yeah, we're here on Valentine's Day, and I know some people are going, "Oh boy, they are a couple rebels tonight." Emilio, I think I'm in good standing. Are you in good standing?
I'm in good standing. I got to see the missus earlier today, in between working. So she's out working tonight, so we're good to go.
He said, I got to see the missus earlier today. I didn't know if maybe you had her tied up in the trunk. You opened the trunk. Went back to happy day. I know the chat's filling up here. Everybody following in here. We got Josh Martin. We got Drew D, Greg Rice, Chris N. Let's see here. Everybody getting vocal in here tonight. Too old for this. Good to see you, buddy. United Bates, the man, the myth, the legend in here. We got Larry Cano, Mr. Larry in here. Everybody sit up straight. Everybody sit up straight. We got Dave James from Australia. Horrible accent there, my bad. Fred McFarley, Prince, good to see everybody, man. I like how Greg starts it off here. Does this mean Mandy cut Clay loose? Clay's a free agent? No, we're good, man. We're good. We got out today and ran around, had a doctor's appointment, and we were all over Bristol and had a good day. So
no, Clay, you know what was nice was I got the flowers last night, right? Stowed them away in the house. She had no idea. Pulled them, set them out, on the counter when I was got up in the morning. Then I go into Kroger later today. Dude, people are running around like their heads cut off. Everyone's grabbing a flower pot. I mean, anything you can get your hands on, anything red was unreal.
Yeah. You got to do it the day before at a minimum.
Yeah, that's key.
And I'm that knucklehead that they see coming. I order it online. I pay the premium, and I didn't have to worry about it. So when we got back,
they sent you a mailer, you would have been all over it. Yeah,
right. When we got back home today, they were waiting at the house, so that worked out good. And this is our 25th Valentine's Day together, which is wild. Wow. People think, oh, well, it's off and on. No, that's like continuous, guys. There's never been a breakup, not one. It's wild. A quarter century, Emilio. It went so fast. Bro.
Congrats, man. Absolutely.
It's been you've met Mandy, dude. It's been an absolute blast, dude. She's a nut job. I love it, man. She's just all over the joint all the time. A blast to hang out with. So really hit a home run there. There's no doubt.
Oh,
and people say that's probably because she's watching Clay. No, she's
a home run. You batted out of your league on that one, Clay.
Oh, big time, bro. You kidding me? Yeah. People say, I love your wife. I go, she's awesome. I can't let her know that, though.
Yeah, only tell me.
Find out. Yeah, I can do way better than this guy. So, anyway, though, good to see everybody in here. Jake Shavinka stream tonight. Y'all sleeping on the couch? It's funny. Mandy's down there on the couch right now. Man, she's watching Go. You ever seen the new? I guess it's newer. A TV show called Ghosts. I think it's on Netflix, maybe or Prime. You seen it? You'd like it. This couple moves into a house. She has a near-death experience that triggers something to where she can see ghosts, and it's a comedy. The house is this old school house, and there's been a bunch of people pass away on the ground, so it's just like filled with all these different personalities. Everything from like an old school Viking dude to a guy that died in the 80s to it's just really cool, man. She loves that show, so she's down there crashed out watching that. So
nice.
Yeah. That's crazy to think about, Drew. When Clayton's 80, he'll be talking about he's been married for 60 years. Yeah, we always talked about the goal is 50, right? Mm-hmm. Not that we're going to quit at 50, but we hope we live long enough to get to 50.
Oh, I'm going to that party. I'm going to that 50.
Oh, yeah, there'll be so many hip replacements needed after that party. Man. No doubt about it. But no, everybody's in good standing here. Appreciate you. We know you're concerned, Jake. We know you're concerned, of course, right? Josh Martin said, I seen on Twitter someone posted a report that Rodgers begged the Jets to stay 1 to 2 more years because if cut, he's seen his career go to the gallows. If true, wow, he seemed desperate. Yeah, I haven't seen any report on that. I'd love to know the source. They're not saying it's not true. But I know the other day Ian Rappaport had to put down a report because someone had said that the Jets gave Aaron Rodgers an ultimatum that if he was going to play for the Jets, he had to stop going on the Pat McAfee show. And Ian Rappaport came out and was like, that's completely BS from the team, saying that wasn't true. So for whatever reason, man, the media being so damn obsessed with Aaron Rodgers is just it was strange when he was here. It's strange when he left for the Jets. It's just like I don't even want to get into the whole Vax thing, but man, I don't know, man. It just seems like a lot of L's those guys and gals have taken over the last couple of years. But for whatever reason, man, they keep throwing it out there. And I know Aaron doesn't do himself any favors, that's for sure. But
did you see the thing about Stafford going to the Giants and the Giants getting Giants
and Aaron going to the Rams.
Right.
Yeah, to me, when I first heard it, I went, whoa, that seems a little odd. And then the more I thought about it, I thought that kind of makes sense. West Coast, right? That's where Devontae wants to be, so it makes sense for them to pick him up. And here's something that is probably the worst kept secret in the entire league, and I'm sure you know this, Emilio, because you listened to the GM Shuffle so much when Michael Lombardi was on there. He talked about it 2 years ago. The Rams are shopping him. They're saying they're not shopping him, but I have firsthand knowledge they're shopping.
And that's why I brought up the other day the new guy that's on there, not Mike, the Mark, I believe. He was saying the Rams or Rodgers to the Rams as a possibility. Remember when we were saying that Rodgers could go there potentially? If they really want Matt Stafford out of there just because they don't want to give him the big deal, but maybe they want to get a franchise quarterback and maybe need an interim one. Could you imagine Shedeur sitting behind Rodgers for a year or two and then get Rodgers out of there ready to roll? I mean,
that would be interesting for sure, man. Because, I mean, again, you ask Jordan Love the role that Aaron's played in his development. He gives a bunch of credit to Aaron. And you don't hear the media talk about that much. But
what would it hurt Shedeur waiting 1 year sitting behind Rodgers if Rodgers just wanted to get one more year out, just clean it up, let me get a positive record and get out of here? What would that hurt him? I don't think it would.
Yeah, I agree, man. I agree. United Bates says they use him for clicks, unfortunately. It's so true, man. It's so true. And what Jay says here is true, too. Aaron doesn't confirm. That's one reason why. Right, but that's how Aaron is. Aaron ain't going to dance for the media. And I'll get to be real. That's why I respect him so much. How many people be like, well, I better put out a statement. It's like, screw that. Let them believe what they want to believe. They don't believe me anyways, what he's saying, right? So why even try to explain my stance? But, yeah, it's just it sucks, man. You wish it could have ended different in that regard because there were so many people that loved him before the infamous immunization comment.
Yeah,
and all of a sudden,
I just don't know.
Yeah, and again, I always crack up people say it has nothing to do with that. Well, I don't like him, and I love when people say that, especially on Twitter. I just go back through their Twitter and I search Aaron Rodgers and I go, oh, Hark, look. Immediately following that was the first negative thing you ever had to say about Aaron Rodgers. So, yeah. So anyway, let's we'll move away from that and let's talk about this question. Our good buddy Rob Westerman over at Green Bay Packers Daily had a great question. I thought he said, in their prime, you can add one of these guys to the Packers for the upcoming season. Who would you pick? All right, given our current roster, right? Who would you pick? Donald Driver, Greg Jennings, or Jordy Nelson? I put the poll question up. Let's see if we got some votes in here. Yeah, we got 32 votes already. Jordy Nelson leading the way at 75%, Greg Jennings second at 18%, and Donald Driver at 9%. So, again, we're talking one season based off of how the roster is currently created here, Emilio. Would you go with Jordy or would you go in a different direction, man?
Yeah, I would. I was thinking on it. I would probably have to say Jordy. Just because when he was cooking, he had some speed. I think that we could use that as a vertical threat. He wasn't afraid to catch the deep ball. He could go up and get it. And, he was just a well-rounded wide receiver. I think it'd probably be Jordy, Driver, Jennings if I were to put them in an order.
Mm-hmm. Too open this says, can I switch to Driver? We need that leadership. And that's a valid point with Donald Driver, man. He one of the best leaders in Packers history, right? Greg Jennings, not so much a leader, but man, he was a dog in his prime. Mm-hmm. I remember when he kind of emerged and it was like, man, this dude, how in the world he didn't go earlier in the draft? Because it felt like from day one he belonged. He didn't get maybe quite the opportunities you expect a rookie to get. But
do you remember that video of the guy, the Greg Jennings video? Greg Jennings when he caught
I wish I tell you, we need a part of that soundbite because
we do. Okay, yeah, let's find that. Let's do that. I'll make a note.
Yeah. Oh, it's one of the hardest hitting safeties in
the league. Yeah. We need to get that. Okay.
I put the team on my back.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's epic, man. Epic. You guys don't know what we're talking about. You're going, this show sucks. It does. And if the show sucks, hit like for us. We appreciate you.
And sub down there, and then you can just turn notifications off. Appreciate it.
Sir. Yes, sir. So again, I figured Jordy would run away with it just based off of the current roster, and how you want to you need someone to stretch the field with Christian being gone. If Christian was healthy, right, then I would kind of maybe press a little more into Greg Jennings, like, hey, that guy that can move from Z to the slot. Jordy can do it all too.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, now that I really think about it, Emilio, Jordy hands down was the best of these three receivers, I believe.
Right.
Driver just had that longevity, and like I said, a team player, tougher than nails. Will go across the middle and take the lick. Man, that catch and run against San Francisco in the throwback unis, one of my favorite Packer plays of all time.
Mm-hmm.
You know which one I'm talking about, where he's throwing the dude off of his back and everything?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. So I wish we could show that stuff, but it is what it is.
And look at, they have no sleeves, all of them, right? That's a key to being a Packers wide receiver. And they all played. I mean, they all played great in their prime, absolutely. But I do think that that leadership is something you can't beat. But I think Jordy had a little bit of that. But yeah, man, that's a trifecta right there.
Absolutely. Prince in the chat says 4K subs on the horizon, boys. Appreciate that, Prince.
Absolutely.
Yeah, if you guys want to be a part of that.
You get that before the draft, right, Clay? That's a little goal there.
That would be awesome, man. Absolutely awesome. And again, it's humbling that this many people, are even interested in subbing to the channel and tuning in when they get a chance. And if you're one of those people that just tune in here and there, man, you're just as valuable as the people that watch every day, and want you to know we appreciate you. And it's been a blast, man. It's been an absolute blast. When I figured out, hey, we could go live on YouTube and cut the pod at the same time, why not do it? And man, we love our podcast viewers or listeners. Don't get me wrong, but YouTube, man, you guys, it's so cool too, Emilio. Like if you watch other shows on YouTube, they're constantly complaining about how the YouTube comments are mean and they're this and they're that. Bro, ours, like, we weed those people out. Somebody gonna get in here and be an ass, they're gone, right? Yeah. It's so cool that we got a group of people that truly get along. I think that's awesome.
Absolutely blessed.
Yeah, definitely. All right, up next, I thought this was a really cool little interview with Will Anderson. If you guys, I'm trying to think if I was doing the pod. I don't think I was doing the pod when Will Anderson came out in the draft, but he was that dude. We're talking Mason Graham this year and how he's like, he and Abdul Carter, think of him like Will Anderson at that level.
Right.
That was the type of player Will Anderson was on my board. He was hands down at the top. And there were some people that were down on him. I just don't see it when I watch him. And I turned on the tape and was like, yeah, this dude looks like every freaking statistic grade that we got baked into the board. He just looks like the real deal. So you get a young and up and coming edge defender talking about going against Zach Tom. I thought this was really cool. So let's see what Will Anderson had to say about going up against Zach Tom. Again, this is the young edge rushing phenom down there. I think he's in Houston, I believe. But here we go.
Probably what's the dude from number 50? Tom from Green Bay.
Oh, Zach Tom.
Zach Tom. Yeah, he's legit.
What did he do to you?
He's like a quick setter. He punches really quick, and he has a really good step off the ball, like kick off the ball. He's good. He's more on the leaner side.
Yeah.
Quick feet, explosive hands, can get back really well. I would say he's up there. Besides LT, of going against LT every day, like he's one of the guys.
There you go. So he's obviously comparing Zach Tom to Laramie Tunsil, I believe is who he's comparing.
Here's the guy.
And you heard what's the first thing he mentioned, Emilio? Two different aspects of the footwork, right?
Yep.
Quick punch, but the feet.
He can reset. He can follow. He said he's on the leaner side. I mean, sometimes you get that big belly, and we're not. You're not able to get back. Got the kick steps a little slow. I mean, and again, remember we've asked him all, like when we were running silent count, he's not even looking at the defender. I mean, that's not easy on a tackle. We lucked out with Zach Tom, man. The fact that he gets that kind of respect from the players is what matters, right?
All right. 2-0 for this says, does Zach Tom own a gas mask? I don't believe he does. And some of you guys may or may not know what he's referring to there. I remember that draft. Hours before the draft kicked off, I'm like, what in the world just happened?
Mm-hmm.
They really got Laramie Tunsil smoking weed out of a gas mask. I immediately thought, man, back in my smoking days, why didn't I try that? Well, we didn't have access to a gas mask back home in Harlan County, Kentucky. You know, there were other ways of accomplishing a similar result, but that was first time I had ever seen that, in my life. So, yeah. Anyway, pretty cool though to hear Zach Tom getting the praise that he deserves, and got to pay that man his money. Got to pay him his money, Emilio. And that's another reason why when we're throwing these numbers around about free agency, I think you can accomplish both. But that's got to be on the forefront of your mind is Zach Tom, and of course Jordan Love's cap hit catching up now, where you assign him to his extension. So Zach Tom, I imagine the first year he gets re-signed, the way the Packers like to do this, they'll probably re-sign him before camp or during camp, right? And when that's finalized, you'll see them probably absorb a little bit of that cap hit this year, and then it'll make it much easier next year. And now you're getting down to a little more of the guaranteed money, and you get into year 3, right? Once you get to year 3, you can kind of look at, okay, now we got some flexibility to restructure, play the cash over cap game, and obviously keep him around the same way we have Elton Jenkins. So no doubt in my mind, Zach Tom's going to get paid, rightfully so.
Yeah, we've been talking about it. Tim talks about it all the time. Back that Brinks truck up and pay the man. I think that's the case. But again, who else do we're going to have to pay moving forward? I mean, we're going to have to pick a wide receiver. We're going to have to pay. We're going to have to pick a couple other players. If Coop turns out to be a dog, he's going to have to get paid. If a corner steps up and is, worthy of that second contract, third contract, whatever, he's going to get paid. So I was going to ask, say we have a little bit of extra cash, like more than just our $10 million at the end of the year, going into the year that we can float around with. Say we got $20 million and we didn't want to roll it all over. Can we take 5 of that and just cut down Jordan Love's hit for future years? Can we knock some of that down?
Yeah, absolutely, man. You can get very creative with it, And again, that comes with restructuring Jordan's contract. Basically saying you could even go to Jordan and be like, "Hey, let's do a simple restructure here, Jordan. Let's take $5 million of your salary, and let's shave $1 million off, but convert $4 million to a bonus check right now." He's probably gonna go, "Yeah, sounds good." Yeah. And now you've shaved $1 million off, right? And then you can spread that extra $4 million out however you need to free up cap along the way.
I like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that's what you always, if you can be in the black, right? You always want to try to be ahead. There's no point in chasing it. You'd be chasing it forever. I'd rather be able to, if you're ready to get out of it, but you paid ahead on it, you paid you paid double your mortgage every other month or whatever, and you're halfway ahead by the end of the year. So I think that's a smart move.
Yeah, I agree, man. Mark Zambito says, what players do you think we re-signed this year? Now, when you're saying this year, I'm assuming, Mark, you're talking about the free agents that are set to hit free agency right now. If not, we'll take it another year further. I can go to Spot Track here in a second and show who's going to be up next year. But here's the current players on the Packers roster set to be free agents if they don't get re-signed before free agency opens here. Okay, you got Eric Stokes, whose PFF grade was a 61.3. I think you let him walk. Offer him damn near a minimum contract. If he's willing to come back for $2 million or less per year, yeah, I wouldn't mind having him back. He showed a little promise down the stretch, but in no way, shape, or form am I paying him anything remotely close to starting cornerback money, or even upper end backup money, in my opinion. A.J. Dillon obviously didn't have a grade because he was hurt. Probably a similar thing there. If AJ doesn't get a whole lot of interest in free agency and you want to bring him back on a minimum, very limited guarantee and give him a shot to make the team, and if you're really, really impressed with him and you want to carry 4 backs and you want to try to slide, someone onto the practice squad somehow, some way, I'm okay with having him back for the right price, meaning darn near nothing. But I don't see that playing out the way it did last year. It kind of surprised us the way it did last year. And honestly, I don't think it really worked out for either party.
Would you take him back at his hit right now, like his 2.7? Would you bring him right back if we had him at that again?
Well, with the way the running back room is right now, I'd have to say no. And I don't even know what his minimum will be based off of his, years in the league. And I'm not exactly sure how all the rules come into play there. But $2.7 million, the biggest thing, you got to find a spot on the roster for him, right? Yeah. You got,
because go down 2 other people.
All right.
Well, I mean, you got Eric Wilson, you got Emmanuel Wilson. I mean, you got Josh Jacobs.
Bingo. Yeah, so like with Josh Jacobs, you got Josh Jacobs, you got Emmanuel Wilson. They're gonna, in my opinion, they're gonna be on the roster. And Emmanuel Wilson, keep in mind, exclusive rights free agent. He will be back. The Packers will have him back. I have a hard time believing they let him just no, we're not interested in that exclusive rights free agency, right? So he'll be back. They're going to be looking to get a healthy Marshawn Lloyd on the field, and they really like Chris Brooks, and Chris Brooks is set to come back, from what I understand.
That's right,
so,
man.
So that's now the question becomes, can A.J. Dillon beat out Chris Brooks for that fourth running back spot? My personal opinion, I would rather have Chris Brooks than A.J. Dillon. I don't know. Do you agree with that? Or
Absolutely. Yeah, we asked Chris Brooks to do a lot more. He's more of a blocking back than he is a running back, though we've given those opportunities. But whenever we asked A.J. to get downfield and get those blocks, it just wasn't quite there.
Yeah, so for me, with Dillon, it'd have to be a minimum, no guarantee. You know?
Yep.
And maybe he would be willing to do that if he don't get any other offers. He loves the area. What I would like to see happen with A.J. Dillon, me personally, if he doesn't sign with us and obviously they move along, right, I'd love to see him involved with the Packers somehow, some way.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's kind of like what Kuhn does with the preseason stuff and the media, or have him maybe have the Packers I don't want to say get rights, but have his podcast done on Packers.com or something, something.
Or a guest speaker on Packers Unscripted with Mike and Wes or something.
Yeah, that would be really, really cool. And I could see him being interested in that. But here's the thing, though, man. He may, another year of not playing significant football, like obviously with the injury being out, he may be hungry. He may be like, hey, I want to get back in this thing, and I'm going to go somewhere else to do it, right? That could definitely be on the horizon as well. Up next, you got Corey Ballantyne, finished the year with a 53.5. You guys know I was big on Corey the year before. When I say big, I mean, I wasn't saying like this dude's a starting cornerback, but it was like I was excited to have him back. They did not see it. Half did not see it last year because they hardly played him at all. So probably going to let him walk. If you can get him back minimum, no guarantees, sure. Let him compete for a spot on the team. He knows he's familiar with the organization, familiar with Lambeau, familiar with the coaching staff, all that stuff, right?
Right.
And then, of course, you got Josh Myers. You guys know how I feel about that. 3 to 4 million is my max there. Before I said 5, and I feel like if I stretch it to 5 and he gets 5 and the Packers bring him back for $5 million per, I'm always going to be in the back of my mind going, what would we have looked like if we had went after a Dahlman or drafted Gray Zabel, and that's the center of the future? You know what I'm saying? So for Myers, there are some positives there, but man, when you're third or fourth highest in the league according to PFF and pressures allowed at the center position, I mean, we talk about it all the time, Emilio. It's one thing to allow pressure off the edge, but when you're allowing pressure right up the gut, that is not.
That Lions game was not a good look. It really wasn't. I mean, he was getting worked over, and I felt bad for him because he was trying to get it squared away, but it's again something we got to come back to. We need to fix that silent count. I want to know that that's fixed by the start of next year, and it's tough. I'd rather have Josh, I think, more than Corey Ballantyne. If we're talking just because he knows he's been here for so long, I think we could get him up to a 65 grade and make it do. But he's I'd take him back at his cap hit right now. But you're right, I don't want to see him over 5.
Yeah, that's a great point. If you can get him back $1.5 million, shoot, yeah, dude, sign me up.
Right.
I think he's going to hit the open market. They're going to look at his athleticism. There's going to be other people that had a very high grade on him coming out of college. I'm sure the Packers weren't the only one that had a second round grade on him. So it doesn't mean those teams are going to go pay 8, 9, 10 million, but they're probably willing to pay more than I will be willing to pay. But again, I would not be surprised if Goody sees him as a starting center and brings him back for significant money. That wouldn't surprise me at all. Eric Wilson is on this list is one of a few that I'm really, really high on. Eric Wilson, 64.3 last year, 1.3 million. If you can get him back around that same price, I want him back. That way you just got to fill one linebacker void if you let McDuffie truly walk.
Yeah.
I would like to have Eric Wilson back. Now, don't get me wrong, the tackle numbers we looked at last night and how, I can't remember who it was on NFL.com that was talking about how, man, you got a chance to go from the number 7 in missed tackles in a good way, right? 7th best team in tackling percentage up even higher if you just cut base with McDuffie and Wilson and slightly upgrade. I understand that, but at the same time, who's to say that if you go get two linebackers and one of those are a 6th or 7th rounder, if they're not even worse than Eric Wilson at tackling,
Right.
and all of a sudden you go from a 64 to a 55 and your special teams gets worse too. That's why I'm kind of like, for that price tag right there, I'd be all over Eric Wilson, bringing him back, man.
All those points are true. I mean, he did all that. And again, came in when Quay got hurt. He was our green dot that we leaned on. It wasn't Isaiah McDuffie. It was Eric Wilson. He's, maybe if he didn't have to step in and be the green dot for so long, he wouldn't have affected the missed tackle percentage as much. But he tears up special teams. He's a leader when he's out there, when he has a green dot. And like you said, I'm not mad at it. Bring him back for under $2 million. I'm good with that.
Absolutely. All right, moving along. Andre Dillard only played. I had to put in a red 13 snaps because he had a good grade, but it's like, man, he could not get. He had absolute zero value in any other position. It seemed like, other than backup left tackle, where Rasheed Walker we did not need a backup left tackle most of the year, Yeah. So I would walk from Andre Dillard, although if you can get him back $1.1 million, no guarantees, brought him back to camp, I would be okay with that to tie up one of the 90s.
Nope.
Why not? Tell him why, Emilio.
My boy, he's wearing 79. His name is Travis Glover. He does not need Andre Dillard out there.
I love that you were dug in. Absolutely dug in.
He got reps in a playoff game. Where was Andre Dillard in that playoff game? You know what I'm saying?
Hey, that's a great point, man.
I'm just as a rookie out of Georgia State, got reps in a playoff game against Jalen Carter. Get off my man's back.
All right, up next you got Tyler Davis, Mr. Sift himself. No grade last year, hurt again. I think that experiment's done, me personally. And listen, I know Matt LaFleur likes him a lot. He was a special teams contributor when he was healthy. I think it's just time to move on there. Zane Anderson's one I want back, Emilio. I'm thinking there's probably lack of tape. He won't get a whole lot of attention. But his PFF grade ended up being an 80.8. Right now, obviously, he got that concussion there toward the end of the year, right at the end of the year. If you can get him back for less than $2 million per, give him a 2 or a 3 year deal, I'm all about it. I'd love to see Zane Anderson back to help contribute on special teams and see if that was a fluke or not, because if you're going to keep Bullard in the slot, then you can add Zane or bring Zane Anderson back in the safety room. You're looking at Xavier McKinney, Evan Williams, and then back up to them would be Zane Anderson and Katano Ladapo. I feel really good about that safety room. I really do. So what do you think about Zane? Are you on board with that one for the right price?
Yeah. I think that's a perfect backup, and they rotate in, get that use special teams wise. I think it's perfect, and he produced when he got the opportunity. Right, that's so big. You've been waiting for however long. Dude's 28 years old, right? Everybody for the past 3, 4, 5 years. Who is Zane? Is he a ghost? Why is he on the team? Comes out, gets a pick. Everybody talks about him. I mean, that's how you make the most of your opportunity. You only get so many of them, especially in the NFL. I think that he kind of deserves it.
Yeah, Fred McFarley said it's a banger there. It really is, man. It really is. Ben Holden said, can Anderson play corner? I have no reason to believe he can, Ben.
Outside, I mean, maybe slot if we're asked.
Slot,
he spins down to the box, but I wouldn't set him outside on an island, no.
Yeah, but I'm telling you, man, he really did impress. I remember we watched the tape a little bit after that game where he blew up, and it was
when he peeled back on that pick. I mean, he was in the flat zone. He was in flat zone and peeled on the wheel route all the way back. And
that's been the problem. Like when Barry was here, there were many times that the call was spot drop, and it's like, boys, there's a thing called looking for work. If there's nothing in your area, nobody on your side of the field, go looking for work. Don't just stand in there and cover grass. Like Coach Haddad did an excellent job when we had him on the show. We need to get him back on the show.
Oh, 100%.
He talked about, we tell people when we play country quarters, which is spot drop, when we play that, a blade of grass has never gained 1 yard on a team. If you don't have somebody in your zone, look for work. Look for work. Don't just sit there like a statue. And that's where Quay has struggled in the past. And Edgerrin Cooper, he probably is a little more shows a little too much freedom. He's like, nobody in my area. I'm going to run all the way across the field, make a tackle. Right. And that's where Matt LaFleur's like, listen, he's not doing everything perfect. It looks good right now. But he's going to end up making a mistake if he keeps playing too free.
Mm-hmm.
But I think they're okay with, again, I've talked about this 1,000 times. I'm okay. If you're going to make a mistake, make it big. That's what Coach D'Amato said on Any Given Sunday. You want to make a mistake, make it big. I won't eat your lunch for that. Go. But if you're playing, the problem with Darnell Savage was he was either too aggressive or he wasn't aggressive enough. Most of the time, he was kind of right in the middle where he's late to the play and allowing extra yak yardage, right? Or he's too early to the play and ends up giving on the second break. If it's a post or something, it just seemed like it didn't click with him.
It's going to get you hurt or get somebody hurt playing like that. I mean, I'm glad that we moved on. I'm glad Goody pulled the trigger on X. I'm glad that we drafted 3 safeties in the draft. I mean, those things happen for a reason because it just wasn't working for Savage. We went through it. We talked about HaHa a little bit ago, right? And it just didn't work. We loved the name, loved the guy, just didn't happen.
Yeah, definitely. TJ Slayton, guys, this grade right here is hard to look at. 43.0 PFF grade. You look at some of the metrics, like he was a pretty damn good defensive lineman. His problem was lack of snaps. I mean, that dude, in my opinion, if I were to, I'm not going to put it on the screen, but if I just go to defensive line and look at the statistics here, and of course it reset. Let's see if we can get it back here. Cracks me up. Okay, here we go. So like with quarterback pressure amongst defensive linemen for the Packers, Brenton Cox Jr., 13.7%, Rashawn Gary, 13.4%, Lucas Van Ness, 11.2%, Devontae Wyatt is our first defensive tackle at 9.7%, then Kingsley Enagbare, another edge defender at 9.4%, then it was TJ Slayton at 8.8%. And again, Kenny Clark was at 6.8%. Carl Brooks, we all love Carl Brooks, only 6.4% pressure rate. TJ Slayton was very, very sneaky good against the pass, which is mind-boggling why he always got such a low grade. And then when you look at the stops, he had 24 stops on 203 run D attempts. To put that into perspective, Kenny Clark had 44 more run defensive snaps and only had 4 more stops. So TJ Slayton really held his own this year. If you can get him back for – and it won't be that number, obviously, the 940,000. But if you can get him back for somewhere, $2.5 million per year, shoot, yeah, dude, sign me up, man.
Which is crazy because we were talking earlier in the year, like, I don't know about TJ. I don't know if he's kind of played himself off this team, leaving the 3-4, not the super nose. But we watched it last night with Khalil and on the Chargers. You have a 3-tech, you have a 1-tech. 60% of the time when you have a 3-tech. I mean, it's not like you're just I like when we go wide and 2 3-techs, but then you're just giving them the middle. So I do think that there's a spot for him on the roster. I think that would be a competition there. He's been there. He's had a year under Hafley. I think that helps too. If Hafley likes him, I think that he's definitely got a shot at coming back.
Yeah, agreed. Bo Melton, 63.2. He's an exclusive rights free agent. I expect him back. Aaron Mosby, 62.5. Exclusive rights free agent. I expect him back. Daniel Whelan, 75.4. Exclusive rights free agent. He better be back. I'm sure he will. Emmanuel Wilson, we talked about. He'll be back. Isaiah McDuffie's an unrestricted free agent at 55.4. And then, of course, Kadeem Telford at a 48.9. He's an exclusive rights free agent. They can bring him back. I kind of hope they don't. No,
I think they probably will because they went to him after my boy Glover didn't do super hot in
He's
the
a big
playoffs.
old boy to it. He's a big old boy.
Yeah. I think that the Caleb Jones didn't work out, so let's try the next iteration or whatever it is and go with that. I think Isaiah is going to go. I think everybody else is probably on their way back. We got to get our boy.
Cheese curds make my stomach hurt all the time, but I do eat them though.
Yeah, for pennies on the dollar, you got to bring Bo back. Especially with, like I said, man, he's the only wide receiver on the team that was had a faster 40 time than Christian Watson, right?
Mm-hmm.
Remember? So obviously not quite the build that Christian had, but as of right now, he probably fits that mold better than anyone to play that role. And then of course Brandon McManus is not on this list here. Pay that man his money too, man. Get him back in here.
Yeah.
No question. I want him on a 3-year deal, you know what I mean, just to make it a little sweeter for him. And a 3-year deal you get out of after 2 if for some reason it goes haywire. But definitely do whatever you got to do to get Brandon McManus in here. And I'm sure they've been in communication with him. I'm just not going to be able to live with myself if we go another rookie kicker and walk all the way through that process again. I mean, it's how nice was it last year, man? That when McManus ran out there, you're like, yeah, it wasn't even like he's going to hit this. I found myself going, hey, he's due to miss one. I ain't even stressing if he misses one.
Yeah.
Like, this dude's a bit of money. And he just kept hitting and kept hitting. So, yeah. Anything else you want?
It's crazy to think that earlier in the year we were just stressing about, like, we were trying to figure out, was it Carlson? Was it the Vikings kicker that came in? Neither of them. Let's go pick up this dude. And we saw him down there, Tennessee, right? Yes. And so, I mean, it's just crazy how much the year changed, finding the guy late on in the season, and now we're cooking. I bring him back and let's go. Yeah,
definitely. You definitely don't want this guy on your roster.
No.
You know what I'm saying? We ain't looking for a kicker like that.
Negative.
Mr. Sexy Time kicker there. So, all right. Going back to – actually, let me check the chat real quick, make sure we didn't miss it. Thought we had – oh, here we go. This was interesting. Ron Samble with the question here said Rasheed is a big question, though. So, obviously, Rasheed Walker is not a free agent this year, but he's going to be, I believe, after next year. If I'm thinking correctly. So let's take a look here. These are the guys that are set to be free agents in 2026. All right. So right off the bat, you got Quay Walker. We got a club option that we can place on him this year. That should come in, if I remember correctly. I think I've got the date here. When we put the fifth-year option on Darnell Savage, it happened on April 29th. So immediately following the draft, we should find out if Quay Walker and Devontae White are going to get fifth-year options, or if they're just going to kind of try to renegotiate with them. Obviously, Wyatt's listed twice there for whatever reason. Christian Watson will be a free agent, right? Malik Willis will be a free agent. Sean Ryan will be a free agent. Matt Orzik, Trey Hill, Romeo Dobbs will be a free agent. Zach Tom will be a free agent. Wow. And is this not the year that I thought it was the same year? Am I wrong here, Emilio? For Rasheed Walker. Does he got two? No, there he is right there. Okay. He was just down a little bit.
Yep.
Yeah, right here. Rasheed Walker, 26 years old. So I'm not sure if he'll be 26 at this point. Or
so everybody in blue is going to be up that year, correct?
Correct.
So it would be Rasheed, Kingsley, Zach Tom, Romeo, Christian. You've got to figure out what you're doing with Quay, Devontae. I mean, that's going to be an important year. I mean, really. Let's look at the market value real quick for Romeo Dobbs. $21.7 million, bro. This is what I was talking about. Like, you talk about overpaying for a good and not overpaying for great. I didn't see that coming.
Yeah. And again, they've been off on these. In some cases, the players it seems like more often than not, they get more money than the market value says. But in that case, it could be lower, but.
Can we see Christians, or is it just for Romeo? Is he the only one?
I don't think it's going to show.
Okay,
Yeah,
I got you.
I have one for Christian, but I imagine it would be similar to Romeo, to be honest with you.
When we were talking, hey, let's come out there with 10, 12 million per for both of them, see who accepts it.
And here's the players that they consider comparable. Okay, Jalen Waddle, Brandon Ayuk, Devonta Smith, and DJ.
Wow.
Now, when you look at how they're comparable, right? The key things they compare on, the statistical comparisons: gameplay percentage, receiving targets per game, receptions per game, receiving yards per game, receiving touchdowns per game, yak per game, drops per game, and rating, okay, which I think is just passer rating when targeted. So when you look at how he stacks up against those, he's lower than everyone else here. So this is rare that you get a comp base that is every one of them are higher than him, right? But what they do is they take into account, like, for example, those four receivers that we just listed off that we're comparing to Romeo Dobbs, their average for gameplay percentage is 96.3%, right? Romeo Dobbs is at 88, so you're going to get a minus 8% hit there, okay? Receiving targets, right, reception or targets per game, they averaged out at 7.1. He only averaged out 5.6, so that's going to be a minus 22 there. Receptions per game, they averaged at a 4.85. Romeo was at 3.5, so you're going to get a minus 27 there. Receiving yards per game, they averaged out at a 70.6. Romeo was at a 42.5. Receiving touchdowns, they were at a 0.43. He was at 0.40. So that's
I just caught the ball.
And then you got averaged on yak per game 24.5. Rome's was only 93.0. drops per game, they averaged 0.28. He was 0.33, so that's even less valuable, right? And then, of course, passer rating when targeted, 83.06 was their average. Romeo's was a 69.45. So when you tally all that up, median prime percentage change, all that average prime percentage change, that's where they come up with the market value of 4 years, $86.7 million, with an average annual salary of $21.6 million. So
That's
again,
brutal, Clay. That's kind of rough. I mean, yeah, it's tough that they have all those, as his, his competition, I guess, but we would hope that he's a solid number 2. I'm not saying that all those guys are number 1s, but they're in the ballpark for Romeo.
let me ask you this. If any of those receivers were on the Packers roster, would they be the number 1? They would, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
Every one of them would.
Absolutely.
So we're, and again, he's taking a little bit of a hit compared to what they would be due for, right? But
they all got paid, right? They all got paid.
Best of my knowledge, they all got paid, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it typically shows you. Here we go. Jalen Waddle, 3 years, $84.7 million, average annual of 28. Brandon Ayuk, 4-year deal, average annual of 30. Devonta Smith, 3-year deal, average annual of 25. DJ Moore, average annual of 27.5. The point, Emilio, it doesn't care what we think he's worth. What does the market say he's worth?
Look
and
at 5 years, $140 million with an average salary.
Yep, of $28 million. That's those guys, right? Their base calculated average value.
And he's not far. I mean, he's $7 million shy of that.
Mm-hmm. Yep, right. And it still seems like a steep price. You know why?
He'll be over $100 million. That's crazy.
This is what. Like I noticed this last year, and that's why I was going, go to Christian and Rome's early, right?
Yeah.
And try to get them on a $10 million per, get to it early. And if they outperform it, you can always give them more money later if they want to try to hold out and get a little bit more what they're worth. But man, oh man, now we're to the point where it's like, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? Now, here's the beautiful thing. If a team goes and pays Romeo Doubs $21.6 million per year on a 3 or a 4 year deal, there's going to be comp picks coming, right? But I don't live for comp picks. I live for quality football players. It's just, in this case, man, let me ask you this. What would be the number you would put on Romeo Doubs? That's the big
think
one.
He's got to be, if it's 4 years, he's got to be closer to 60-ish.
Okay.
4 years at 86.
Give me an average annual values.
Right, yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, right now they haven't calculated 4 years for $86 million, average salary of 21. I think he's got to be around the 15 number to even try to consider it. There's no way he can be over 20. There's just no way.
Right. And this is where you can go lower average annual value, but more guaranteed, right? And make it a little more appealing to the player.
Which may be more appealing to him, not calling him out. We had some issues with some injuries recently. I don't love that, what happened to him. So I would rather him be more guaranteed in that sense.
Yeah, absolutely. That's going to do it for hour 1. For those of you listening on the pod, we'll see you on the other side. We'll continue this conversation. We got a few other topics we're going to hit on as well. We appreciate y'all.
You hurt me, bro.
Moving on to hour 2 here. Chris N says Sheed projected is 15.5 to 17 million per year. Let's see if that's actually what's showing on Spot Track here, and he may have found it somewhere else. I'm not showing a Sheed comp here, so he probably got it in over the cap, I would imagine. I'll say this: if Rasheed Walker, if you can get him for $15 million on a 4-year deal, I think I would do it. I think I would do that. How do you feel about that one? Because that's listen, you're talking about Zach Tom, 20 to 30 million probably per, in that ballpark. Rasheed Walker, I feel like he's a great pass blocker and he's a good run blocker in my opinion. That's just based off of the tape. That's not going off of grades, things like that. I want to say he was one of a few. Many times his name kept getting mentioned during the season about he hadn't allowed a sack in so many snaps, or maybe not even at all. I remember seeing that. Did you ever at any point feel like, man, Rasheed's holding us back? Because I sure did.
At the beginning of the season when he kept taking penalties, yeah, we got away from that and we were good to go. So you're right. I wouldn't be mad at that if we could get him, because you're going to have to pay your right tackle. I mean, if we're able to pay a left tackle, which is a a prime position on the offensive line, half of what we're paying our right tackle because our right tackle is just that elite, I think that's a screaming deal because it's not like our left tackle is bad. It's not like he got Jordan killed on the blind side just off not like what we saw last night against those teams. You know what I mean? Like Khalil Mack didn't run the arc on him. I'm not opposed to that, especially if we go into this draft, get a couple of more offensive linemen, move them inside, move them around, get them trained up. Jordan Morgan steps up. I would think as Rashid at $15 million, more of like a bridge player. If he does tear it up and is deserving of the third contract, all right, no problem. But I would think of it more as a 4-year bridge to get our young guys going.
Yeah, and for me with Rasheed Walker, the big thing there is like I'm willing to pay 2 offensive linemen, right? So if you extend Rasheed Walker and you extend Zach Tom, right, you got both those guys under contract. Their new contract will not start to hit until the following year. And at that point, you're probably going to significantly reduce Elgton Jenkins' contract, or you're just going to move on outright, right? Because he's kind of getting to that age now. We're getting to that conversation to see if he's going to continue to play at that. So if that's the case, then you're going to be paying those 2 guys. You'll still have Jordan Morgan on a rookie contract. You'll have, like you said, other draft picks.
You got Elton you're paying, right?
Yeah, right. So I'm okay with paying Sheed as long as it doesn't get once it gets above or around 20, that's when I start to get a little bit shaky on it. But again, man, I think many people are going to look at how he's played and they're going to be willing to give him that kind of money.
Where's how do you get that percentages chart, Clay? Do you remember of what percentage of the cap each player is taking up on your teams?
Oh yeah, absolutely. What year would you like to see? I can go get it right now.
We can do 24 or 25, I guess, if it moves ahead like that. But I was just trying to see, do they project it out, like who they're going to sign or anything? Just because we were talking, you don't want anybody to take up. You got like enough space to do 3 people over 10%, 3 or 4 people over 10%, and then besides that, you really need to make the rest of your team work.
This is how 2025 is laid out, right? Now, I don't expect us to throw the book at any of these guys that are set to be free agents this year, right? Nobody's going to get a crazy contract. So you've got Jordan Love at 10.8% of the cap, Rashawn Gary at 9%, Jair Alexander at 9%, Kenny at 7%, Xavier McKinney at 6%, Elgton Jenkins at 6%, Josh Jacobs at 4%, Keyshawn Nixon at 2%, and then everybody else is in the 1%.
Dude, that is screaming deals. You're telling me we've got what's that? 30, 10, 40. I mean, we're like right around 50, just shy of 60%, maybe. I mean, most teams are probably maxing that out, pushing 80% of their team in those top 10 players. That is so efficient from the GM money, Russ Ball, all of them. I think that's just kind of what we have to keep in mind moving forward, though. If we're going to sign these guys, if the cap hit, whatever the number is, it works. But as long as we can keep that percentage working in our equation, I think that's so key.
Yeah, no, I think it is too, man. And again, it's going to come down to how these guys play. It's so quickly we change our minds, right? It just takes one bad thing. You're like, okay, boy, we dodged a bullet. We would have been overpaying there. But yeah, I mean, this looks really
Look at Zach Tom. Look at Zach Tom right there at the side of Ron's name there. He's at $3 million, 3.3 million, 1.2%. If Ron's thinking Tom's at 27, 28, he's going to be dropping in, right behind Jordan Love, Rashawn Gary, 9-ish%. So I think that's just something we got to keep in mind, especially when we're talking about all this money we have in free agency to work with, right?
And that's the other thing too. Like people who see that number and go, "Whoa, that's too much. That's too much." Penei Sewell got 28.
Right.
Now, if you're saying that Zach Tom isn't as good as Penei Sewell, I probably agree with you. But again, you're talking about a year and a half, 2 years later, that cap number is just going to keep going up. Like his value, that number raises every year. So even if he is considered slightly, not to the level of talent that Sewell is, he's probably going to get somewhere around that number right there, like Ron was saying, 27 to 28, something like that. And again, that's average annual value. That doesn't mean that's what the cap hit's going to be because cash over cap and all the things we constantly talk about here. So, but
our top 8 players take up roughly 56%. That's it.
Yeah.
Half of our roster is open up. It's open up to just $1 million contracts across the board.
Look, let's go. Let's show stark contrast here. Let's go to the Browns. Look at this. Look at
Please.
Deshaun Watson, bro. 26.5% of the cap at 72.9.
Dude.
Absolutely. Name a random team. I mean, I don't care what the team is. Just name a random.
Arizona Cardinals.
All right, let's go to the Cardinals. Easy to find there. 16.5% for Kyler Murray. All right. Other than that, they're not really paying anybody nothing crazy,
I
right?
like that. That's not terrible. Okay.
Right. Let's see how the Lions are structured. That's the team that's kind of running the North right now, right? Goff, 11.8. Taylor Decker, 8.4. Frank Ragnow, 5%. So people were talking about Penei Sewell, right? This is what I mean by, when will the contract kick in, right? In 2025, this year, it's only $9.5 million, okay? It's Penei Sewell's cap hit at 3.4%.
Mhm.
If we go ahead to 2026, Penei Sewell jumps to 9.5% at $28 million cap.
Look at how much their whole roster changes from 25 to 26. I mean, they get themselves into a pickle. Amon-Ra's got to get paid. Penei's got to get paid. That's crazy. I mean, we've had like 4 or 5 people before we even hit 30%. We had 8 people in the top 50%. These teams are pushing that. I mean, they're like 6.
All right. And here's the key, too. You see Goff at 23%, right? But watch this. If you go to the structure of his contract, right, and it's going to zoom out a little bit, I'll tell you guys what the number is. In 26, he jumped to whatever it was, 24%, right?
Yep.
Let's look at how it's attached here, okay? His cap hit in 26 is $69.6 million, right? Look at his base salary, $55 million. You're going to see that get restructured. They're going to restructure that where they're going to convert some of that salary to signing bonus, and they're going to lower that cap number. Mark my words. If they keep him on the roster, and they have to because the dead cap attached, basically if they cut him in 2026, they're only freeing up $6 million. They're absorbing a dead cap hit of $63.8 million. So just keep that in mind. Bates here said, can we see the Eagles? Let's take a look. Let's go back to 25, and let's go with the Philadelphia Eagles here.
Zoom it back in real quick.
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Oh,
So with the Eagles here, Jalen Hurts only 7.9% of the cap.
Wow.
Right. A.J. Brown only 6.4% of the cap. Lane Johnson 6.3%. Josh Sweat, who will not be on the roster, is still going to be allocated 5.9% of the cap, even though he's a free agent. That's those voidable years we're talking about, right? So
I mean, they pushed it out. They got a ring.
Yep.
It
And
worked.
I'm telling you, there are Packer fans that claim to be salary cap gurus that scoff at this, and that's so irresponsible. The Rams freaking did it, and they got a ring.
Yep.
Philly did it, they got a ring. Once you enter that window, it's time to, all right, boys, let's put up or shut up. Let's go get this thing, and then you back up and reset after you get a ring. That's what the teams are doing. So that's kind of the blueprint right now for sure. If we go ahead to 2026, though, let's see how the Eagles change here. Now you're seeing Jalen Hurts jump up to 10.8 with a $31.9 million cap hit. A.J. Brown is at 7.9% with $23.4 million cap hit. So that would be A.J. Brown would be our Romeo Dobbs if we re-sign Romeo Dobbs. You see what I'm saying? Is Romeo Dobbs A.J. Brown?
I'm going to say no. Yeah.
Not even close.
And that's why you look at the previous year. Hey, it worked, right? They pushed it out. Now they're going to have to pay on the end here. They're going to have to reload that team with some younger talent. They're using up a lot of their percentage in players there. I mean, it's at some point you got to pay the people you have. You want to pull up Vikings and Bears just to see where we're at?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's take a look here. Let's go back to 25.
We got so off track.
Let's go Minnesota Vikings. All right. So here's how they set in 2025. Brian O'Neill at 9.4%. Jonathan Grenard at 8.1% of the cap. TJ Hawkinson at 6.1%. So they don't have anybody at 10%.
That's nice.
It's impressive.
Yep.
It is. Yep. Now, the reason it's so low, there's not a quarterback here, right? Just Sam Darnold's voidable year where they got a cap hit of $5 million. It's only $1.8 million. So even though he's not on a roster, this is the beautiful thing about drafting a young quarterback, right? As you see here with J.J. McCarthy, if they move forward this year and J.J. McCarthy's a starting quarterback, 1.8% of the cap for the next at least 2 years, maybe 3, depending on if he holds out or not for a new contract. So, and again, they went and got Aaron Jones. He's not on the roster right now. They're still on the hook for 1% of their cap at $3.2 million. They kind of pushed the chips to the middle of the table there. They did the same thing with Stephon Gilmore and Byron Murphy, who's set to be a free agent.
And I love how we don't have any of that. I haven't seen yellow text on any of the Packers. The
only thing we got is Preston Smith, which, by the way, he's back on the market. So, yeah, and I put it out there earlier. I didn't ask did anybody want him. I wasn't ready to get raked over the coals. I just threw it out there like, okay, he's back on the market now. I don't think there's any chance that they sign Preston back, even to a minimum, because he asked to be traded. He was like, this just ain't a fit for me.
And the fact that they got something out of it,
right? Yeah, no, absolutely. 7th round pick, right? So here we go. When you go to 2026, now Justin Jefferson jumps to 13.2. Harrison Smith's bills come due here, voidable years. You're going to have a $26.4 million, even though he's not on the roster.
That's tough.
So this is kind of that last year where they're going to have to
9%. That's 9% of their cap. I mean, that's like our Rodgers year. I mean, not exactly, but like that. That's the kind of. I mean, you're pushing double digits on a cap hit that's not doing anything for your team.
And sometimes you do that with the intention of, well, we'll re-sign him again, and we can spread that back out and have a little bit. He's 37 years old. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, no, it's done. Yeah, right. Yeah, I mean, that's it, right?
Yep. So, again, when you've got a young rookie quarterback, man, it really helps things out. And the Packers didn't go like crazy in free agency and overspend. I thought they got really good deals on both Josh Jacobs and Xavier McKinney, and you were still taking advantage of a lesser hit. It wasn't the rookie deal, but a lesser hit on Jordan Love that allowed you to, kind of finagle their situation as you got him his new contract. So
absolutely.
All right, and you said you want to see the Bears too.
Bears,
right?
Yeah, let's just see. Keep an eye on the North here.
So Montez Sweat, edge defender, 29 years old. He's at 9.1%. DJ Moore, 9%. Jalen Johnson, 7%. That's money well spent, I think, right there. Tremaine Edmonds, 6.3%. Cole Kmet, 4%. Yeah, they're in a pretty good spot. I feel like
not in terrible shape. Couple of guys under, just under the double-digit mark. But I think moving into that next year. But again, to your point of having a rookie quarterback, look at Caleb, 3%. He was what, first overall pick? 3%. It's going to be like that for the rest of 2 more years, right? So he's going to be sitting at 3% when everybody else is going up.
Absolutely, man. And then when you jump ahead to 2026 for the Bears, it doesn't change much. DJ Moore jumps to 28.5 at 9%. Montez Sweat at 8.5%. Jalen Johnson at 7.1.
So cap-wise, I would say Bears are going to be our biggest threat moving forward. I think that the Vikings and the Lions are going to get themselves.
The Bills are kind of coming due.
Yeah, right, exactly. Yep, and I think it's something just keep in the back of the head. It's not like we need to follow it forever, but hey, Bears have a little bit of financial flexibility moving forward.
Yeah. Jake Shavink says, I hope the Bears don't get Gianti or Henderson, but they probably will. I'm with you, Jake. Like, if I'm the Bears, I'm probably taking Gianti. Like, man, you throw him in the backfield with Caleb Williams, and they run a little zone read.
That would be crazy.
A little RPR action where it could be a zone read with a pass attached as well. Man, that's the only thing that gives me hope is, you guys know I've been very vocal. I'm not as big on Caleb Williams as most people are. But again, Ben Johnson may come in there and be able to get him playing good, might be able to kind of turn that around. Everybody looks at the touchdown to interception ratio, and you guys know I harp on how important controlling turnovers is, but he was way too conservative in that regard last year, taking freaking 12-yard sacks because he didn't want to throw the ball away or throw a pick. Sooner or later you got to stop taking huge losses. And those sideline emotions, man, they were the cherry on top, no doubt about it. So 2-0 for this. Ben Johnson feels like a cornier version of Eberflus. I'm really excited to see how that team responds.
Get ready to go.
He does not look like a leader of men. And I could be wrong. They may respond to him and absolutely love him, right? But, man, if I had to put my money on it right now, I'd say there's probably some guys in that locker room going, this guy's weirdo.
Yeah.
And it's not like with Nick Sirianni. Sirianni's an odd cat. But Sirianni has been very vocal. I am who I am. And my guys know I'm going to be me. I'm not going to be anything else. I'm a cornball, a cheese ball. But the way that Ben Johnson acted, it seemed fake. And I'm telling you, man, Coach John Madden talked about that all the time. If they find out the second they realize that you're fake, you've lost the locker room. If they figure out you're a phony, that's the word he kept using, phony, they're done, right? And of course, Duval. We got him on deck this year. It's going to be fun to see those sideline reactions down there in Jacksonville. So, as Fred McFarley said there. Any other team you want to look at here, Emilio? I love talking cap.
Pull up the Cowboys. We got to check out what Jerry's doing with his money situation.
Let's go on, Jerry. There it is. Dak Prescott, 23%.
Oh my God!
And this is 26. To be fair, that's 26. So in 25, it's 32%.
It literally made it worse. You're telling me 45% of their cap is between Dak Prescott and C. So we have. All right, we had 8 people on 56% of our cap. The Cowboys are pushing 2 people on 45% of their cap. 2 people.
That's crazy. And quarterback is important.
And it's not like Michael Parsons is far off. He's at 9%. He's at 9% right there. We're pushing at our 56, they're 55%. They have 3 people: Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb, Michael Parsons.
Is that the 5th-year option on Micah? Am I thinking right?
I think so.
Let's look real quick. I think that is a 5th year. Yeah, that's the club option of $24 million. That's what you're talking about with an edge defender. And he was a high pick, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, he was I want to say he was 11th or something, 10th, 11th.
And so that plays a much bigger role there. But yeah, that's where with Micah Parsons, what I always talk about with the 5th-year option. Now, they can spread that money out if they want to. We did that with Darnell Savage, right? You could tack on some voidable years and still try to put the structure of a new contract together and kind of worry about it as you go along. But, that's now, Micah, I'm okay with that. Like, that's a tier 1 position. Quarterback, if you think Dak's the guy, that's a tier 1 position. You got to make it work. The market is what it is, right? And they're going to bring that number down. There's no doubt in my mind they will bring that number down here any day now. CeeDee Lamb, though, this is what I'm talking about, guys, with a wide receiver. I didn't look at the Cowboys and go, yep, man, they're just one receiver away from being dominant. I just didn't see them that way. They got too much to fix in the trenches, in my opinion. And who's their left tackle, by the way? They are not paying their left tackle much money at all.
So for their first 8, our first 8, 56% again, their first 8, they were roughly 72, 73% of their cap is their first 8 players. We're 20% less than that. That's crazy. I mean, we have so much opportunity to move forward with it just because we have young talent that that is able to play together on the field. But at some point, we have a bill coming too. That 56% isn't going to be sitting there forever.
Right. Let's go back to the Packers now that we've covered the rest of the league here, and let's look. Jordan Love at 10%, Gary at 9%, Jai Alexander at 9%, Kenny Clark at 7%, Xavier McKinney at 6%, Elton Jenkins at 6%. This all looks to me well within range of where you want it. Now in 2026, a bunch of these numbers are going to jump, and that's where even more restructure is going to come into play. But keep in mind what's going to happen here this year. Again, the names that we've got listed, Rashawn Gary, I think there'll be a restructure. Could be to the tune of freeing up $5 to $7 million this year. Okay. So if you do that and you drop his number down, let's say it's $5 million at 20 million, now he's all of a sudden at 7%. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And then with Jordan Love, I've got it probably right around $5 million. So if you bring his number down to $24 million, then that's going to put him somewhere in that 8 to 9% range, right? In between 8 and 9%, somewhere there. Right. So that brings that down a little bit. Jair Alexander, I've got them potentially saving $8 million on a restructure with him if he is on the roster. If that's the case, you bring his number down to, let's call it $19 million, right? Then that's going to put him somewhere in the 7 to 8% range. You see what I'm saying? These numbers are going to get adjusted, and guys, it's going to happen pretty soon. It's going to be probably between the 20th and the 25th is when we'll start hearing rumors, or you'll just hear so-and-so restructured, and we'll kind of keep up with everything as we go through that in the offseason for sure. Elton Jenkins is another one. I've got them potentially saving somewhere around $5 million. Realistic numbers. These aren't like maximum numbers. These are realistic numbers. If they decide to restructure him, you could see his cap hit drop down to somewhere between 12 or 13 million, right? Xavier McKinney, I've got roughly $5 million, so his could go down to somewhere around 12 million. Kenny Clark, I've got $3 million. His is very, very interesting, right? That's what I was talking about. Next year's where you could save a boatload of money with Kenny, unless you want to do a June 1st and split that up. Right. You could save a little extra, but I think if they keep Kenny, they're going to shave at least $3 to $4 million off, maybe more. But But yeah, like Jake says here, Kenny at 7.4%. Yeah, guys, he's grading out as one of the worst defensive linemen in the league. And this is no surprise to anybody who watches our show because, man, we talked about it. It was like going into last year, I was saying, I don't want to re-sign him. I think Kenny's a great – how many times I say to me, Kenny's a great dude. He's a great leader. Teammates love him, but, man, he just ain't it. And then, bang, Goody gives him – you know what I mean? It's like, oh, gosh. What do
I'd love for him to retire a Packer. You know, the most recent guy to run his whole career here brought him in when he was, 19, 20? I mean, he was young, right? So that's tough. But, yeah, it's 7.5%. That – no like you that.
Yeah, no doubt. And then Josh Jacobs, I'm saying you could probably free up about $2 million there if you wanted to. I don't know if they will. And whether they spend this money or not, guys, the whole purpose is if you free that much cap space up this year, and it's to the tune of converting, base salary and roster bonus to signing bonus, a good portion of that, probably half of that, is going to be money you can roll over from a sense of you're going to be trimming that cap hit not to kick it down the road. Some of it you'll kick down the road and you'll reallocate throughout future years. Right. But you're actually going to be freeing up cap space that will roll over. So that's why in 2026, it's going to look much different than the numbers you see here where Jordan jumps to 12.2 and Kenny jumps to 10.6. Mm-hmm. But look at Kenny here. His cap hit goes up to 31.3. But, gosh, I hate that it ain't showing here. Let me see if I can do this. I got to go all the way to the bottom, really. It's not even showing. Where's his dead cap? It's not showing his dead cap on the table, is it? Oh, there it is. Yeah, hold on there. Yeah. I'm just saying, I got too many windows open there. All right, so, yeah, it's right there where I needed it. Never mind. So, like with Kenny here, for example, if you cut him outright, he goes from $31.3 million and you're freeing up or your dead cap attached to $17 million. What would that be? Like $13 million be free, $14 million be freeing up? Yep. Now, keep in mind, that $17 million is going to be on the cap that year, right? You get the bill comes through it comes off the roster. It accelerates to the current year. But that's where you could go to Kenny. And I think their plan was go to Kenny here, do a heavy restructure, lower that cap number to like $15 million, and he stays a Packer. My issue is I don't really want him on the team. Hate to be that guy. I'm just saying. Watch him come out this year, make me eat my words. I said that for 2 years now. Still hasn't happened, right?
That would be the plan.
Yeah.
That's tough. Yep. Scroll down. Do we have any void years?
Oh, yeah. Let's look.
Look how clean that is. Look how clean that is.
Right. Now
look at my boy. Scroll up. My boy.
There's no dead cap. No dead cap numbers. Yeah.
Travis Glover getting paid more than Zach Tom. Let's go. Roll it back a year. I think he's still getting paid more than him.
Oh, my gosh. You go 2025.
Yeah,
that's wild to think about. Emilio's like, y'all keep saying Travis Glover ain't good. He's better than Zach Tom.
Oh no, I don't think they have it. But yeah, no, he is getting paid more than Zach Tom currently.
Yeah, $1 million.
Yeah, buddy.
$1 million. So yeah, when you're looking for voidable years, it should show the dead cap. So here's the dead money we were talking about. Preston Smith this year, $9.8 million. Devondre Campbell, $7.9. People are going, whoa, that was 2 years ago. That's what we're talking about post June 1, how that carried over. Right, like you're able to. It's not split completely in half, but you're dividing.
When we cut him post June 1 this previous year, we were able to spread it out a little bit last year. The rest of it on this year.
Bingo. So what the whole point there is, like with Kenny Clark, if we wait till post June 1, I'm almost positive. I've been asking people to double check me here and see if they see something different because I might not be completely understanding it. But if we cut him this year, his dead cap attached, right? Back to Kenny again. It always comes back to Kenny. His cap hit is $20.3 million, but his dead cap is $26.8 million. Okay, so let's go with the 26.8. So if you go post June 1, right, then you can absorb $13 million this year and $13 million next year, just theoretically speaking. I've never seen it break down 50-50 to the best of my knowledge. It's usually a little more the first year and then a little less the next year, but you can kind of split that dead cap hit up and make it a little more palatable. But they obviously like Raji, man. They like Raji. I read Raji in there. They like Clark. They like Kenny. Yeah. So I think he's going to be on the roster. But they could play hardball with him too and go, hey, Kenny, listen, we got to do something here, man. But when you look at his restructure ability, it's kind of already been done. Look at his base salary, man. Let me zoom it back in here real quick. We're going to look for roster bonus and base salary. $1.3 million, right? and then his roster bonus is 7.5. So you could go to that roster bonus and try to do a little bit of magic there, right? I just don't, that's where I came up with $3 million was half of the roster bonus.
They can take it away and say, give this to you in signing bonus, and we're going to knock this up. Yep.
They would spread it out. And, they could go to him and go, hey, look, Kenny, we got two options here, man. We want you on the team, but the cap hit's just too much. We want to lower that roster bonus. We want to give you a signing bonus so you don't, whatever. If we cut you outright, you lose that $7.5 million because you're not on the roster. Okay. You also lose your $1.3 million. But if we convert that to, let's say, $3 million signing bonus, we'll cut you a $3 million check if you'll shave $2 million off the cap for us, right? Or $3 million in this case, like I had mentioned. And if you did that, then his option now becomes, okay, I can get a $3 million check right now, but I'm making $3 million less overall in the year, or I can pack my family up and move across the country somewhere else. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that's by the time you move and you buy a new house and you do all these things, it's like, is it really worth it? That's where they really kind of,
because looking at 24, his base is 10 million, right? And then signing of a 9.3, but then looking at his base in 25, he's at 1.3 million. That's just his base. Right. And then it jumps up in 26, back up to 8.8, then up to 18.3. So that's so is that because they were previously restructuring in 24 to get him to that? So you take that roster and clean that up?
They usually mention in here when they do a restructure.
Oh,
right. No. And I'm looking here and I don't see, they don't have it listed here. Usually they'll, like, there's a rookie.
Go back up a little. Right. Up a little bit more right there.
Let's see. What's it say?
Contract notes.
Yep. 27.6 million guaranteed at signing, blah, 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 2021 per game. Yeah, no, that was just the extension, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. So again, if you were to go to him and approach it that way, next year makes more sense. Let's say that you keep Kenny this year on the cap hit you got.
Oh, right on the side there, Clay. My bad. March 3rd, right? Converted 11.3 out of the
bingo. There you go. Okay. Of the 2023 salary. There it is. Good eye, Emilio. That's where it's at. So clearing $11 million of cap space. So that's the reason his salary is so low. And you'll notice sign-in proration, $4.3 million. Sign-in proration, $4.3 million. Sign-in proration, $4.3 million. People see that and they go, so he's got to wait till 26 to get that? No. He gets that money up front. That's why players are so much more motivated to do these restructures. When we hear restructures and we hear pay cut, yeah, on the surface, you're taking less overall money, but they're getting a lot more guaranteed money than they would have had. And that's what agents and players are really going for. So, so Kenny's an interesting one, man. I wouldn't be surprised if they cut him and set him at a June 1st, post-June 1st designation or whatever. But I just don't – I think that's wishful thinking.
I think they're probably restructure, save as much as they can, keep him on the roster.
And again – TJ Slayton, 2% higher pressure rate. Yeah. If you gave TJ Slayton Kenny Clark's reps this year, right? And now, does TJ Slayton, does he have the stamina? Does he have the physical ability to be able to withstand?
Injury protection, all that.
Because, listen, we've been raking Kenny over the coals, right? And some people would say rightfully so. But the reality of that situation with Kenny is he played – 62.6% of the snaps. That is higher than anyone else on defense on the defensive line. So with TJ Slayton, he only played 38%. So you're talking about damn near doubling his snap count. Can he handle that? And that's the things that in our Madden world of 2025, right? We're going, I'd rather have him out there. The coaches are looking at him going, this guy can't stay out there that long. He can't.
That brings us back to that move up draft and when we were able to get Mason Graham. I mean, could you imagine? Well, I know we were talking. We thought it was going to be Hockey Line. I'm glad you pulled that number. I thought it was going to be more 50-50, man. 60, 70% for a 3-tech that could be producing at that level. At some point, Kenny's going to have to drop those numbers. Not that, if he's still on the team, if he's off the team, whatever, he's coming up on age. That's going to have to be replaced at some point. I think that's so huge to pay attention to. Those snaps have to be replaced.
And when we were talking about doing that trade, immediately in your mind you go, why don't we throw Kenny in that trade, right? Well, there's a reason it's not that easy. You're looking at some of these other teams. They got to absorb a 20. Well, their cap hit that they would be absorbing if we traded Kenny. That's the thing. If you trade, you got to wait till post June 1. I don't know if you can designate a post June 1 trade. I don't think you can do that. I think it's got to be just when cutting a player.
Right.
Y'all fact check me on that, though. I'm not 100% sure. But if you approached it that way, the team that's trading for Kenny in this regard would only be absorbing a $1.3 million salary, right? A $7.5 million roster bonus if he makes the roster. So the cap hit you're looking at, if I'm understanding it correctly, along with the workout bonus and the roster GM bonus, all that, be right around a $10 million cap hit for somebody, which is nothing for a defensive tackle that some would see as a better defensive tackle in the league. I just disagree with that opinion of it, So if you were to throw that into a trade, right, and try to clear a little bit of that, you're still going to be upside down in that contract, but you get a little bit of draft capital back. Some players, you look at that, Emilio, and you think, you know what? I would rather have him on the roster than have a 7th-round pick. I hate to say it, but Kenny's got to the point where I don't feel that way with him. I just kind of want someone else in there, Milton Williams. You guys know, I talked about how Devontae Wyatt, in my opinion, is just as good as Milton Williams when you truly break down the numbers. Milton Williams is a better pass rusher. Devontae Wyatt's a significantly better run stopper, right? But if you're saying, would you rather have Milton Williams or Kenny Clark? It's Milton Williams. So if you traded Kenny and got a 7th round or a conditional draft pick, right, and they absorb a little bit of the cap hit, what have you, and then you go sign someone like Milton Williams, now you line up Milton Williams, Devontae Wyatt, and you draft someone, and there's your rotation. I feel better about that than $20.3 million against the case. It's tough,
Mm-hmm.
And again, I think he's probably going to be on the roster till next year. That's me. Anyway, so let's hit the Patreon group real quick. I wanted to hit this. I didn't want to fall too behind on it. But this was a fun conversation. We did not even have this in the notes game. This was you guys in the chat steered the conversation in this direction. I'm so glad you did, man. This is a lot of fun. We'll go rapid fire real quick. With some of this, and I got a couple of things to go along with it. So questions for the show in our Patreon group. If you want to join our Patreon group, just go to patreon.com/Packer Fan Total Access. If you're a member of one of the 3 tiers, you get access to all of our chats. It can be the cheap $2, $3 tier, whatever it is. You get access to the chat. You also get access to the giveaways, things like that. Josh Martin in there said, Kendall Fuller just got released. Would he be a good option for cornerback? And I actually went and gave this a look here, Emilio. Kendall Fuller, all right, his passer rating when targeted or passer rating allowed, 89.8. Okay. His yards per target allowed was 6.8 yards per target. Now, let me compare that to Keyshawn Nixon, all right? Kendall Fuller, and this, in my opinion, Kendall Fuller would start over Keyshawn Nixon if you were to sign him, right? Keyshawn Nixon passer rating allowed was 101.2 to Kendall Fuller's 89.8. So much better. Kendall Fuller much better there. In yards per pass attempt allowed, or I'm sorry, yards per target allowed, okay? Kendall Fuller 6.8, Keyshawn Nixon a little bit better at 6.1, okay? So I would not be opposed to Kendall Fuller. It's not like a jump off the chart, hey, let's overpay for this guy for the right price. I'm okay with it. Now, when you're talking about the other corners, Jair Alexander, his passer rating allowed 77.6 to Kendall Fuller's 89.8. Carrington Valentine's was 69.0, better than Jaws, right? He hands down better than Kendall Fuller. So, and his 8.7 yards per target and Jair Alexander's 8.1 yards per target, obviously significantly higher than Kendall Fuller. But if you had to put my feet to the fire, would you sign Kendall Fuller? I would say no. I would rather have Jair Alexander, Carrington Valentine, and Keyshawn Nixon. That's just me personally. You got anything? And again, if you're wondering how is Keyshawn Nixon's yard per target 6.1, but his passer rating allowed is 101.2, it's because he gave up 6 touchdowns. So
yeah, you got cooked. I mean, it's nothing against him. The red zone wasn't his friend though. And I mean, that's no diss to Kendall Fuller. I just think that we have, a couple more dogs here already established. And if we're going to replace, I think it's going to be, coming up the ranks, not a drop. It's our cornerback room doesn't seem as hollow as our safety room was last year, right? Like
Right.
dropping in like a top 5 corner would be super dope, but I don't think it's going to have the same effect that like dropping an X did on our safety room last year.
Yeah, completely agree. All right, back to the Patreon group. In another one of our forums here, our chats, I should say, Harry Cheese says, not a free agent, but Garrett Wilson has been rumored to want a trade. Could the Packers go and get him? If that is the case, does he fit, and would the compensation be worth it? The way I understood it, Harry Cheese, is Garrett Wilson would seek a trade if Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams returned. Like, he didn't like the fact that he wasn't getting as many targets, I guess you could say. I think they're going to keep him, but it's going to take a lot of draft capital to trade for him. It really is, man. Like, you're talking about, I mean, I don't see the Jets giving him up for anything less than a first. That would be silly, you know? And when you look at what he's done, the reason I say that, his PFF grade since he came in the league, Emilio, 82, 72, 78. And that's even with him and Aaron Rodgers trying to get on the same page and obviously couldn't, right? So
Yeah, and who was his quarterback before that?
Yeah, exactly. So, and here's the thing, like when you're talking about the draft capital, also he's going into the last year of his deal. You got to give him a big now. Is he worth a number one receiver money? Absolutely. I think he is. I think Garrett Wilson is. I think.
But you have to trade a first-round pick and then change first-round pick, maybe a third or a fourth, and then get Garrett, then bring him in here for.
Can't do it.
Then you got to pay the man.
Yeah. Now, let's say Jair holds their feet to the fire and says, I want out of here, and you do a player swap, Jair for Garrett Wilson, sign me up. Because you're freeing up $6 million with the trade initially. You might as well go ahead and take that $6 million off of the first year of that new contract. That's a little more palatable if Ja was to play kind of hardball there. And again, we have no reason to believe that. We're not trying to start rumors. It's just, you guys know Jair's been rumored to potentially be traded this year. The longer we wait, I feel like he's probably going to be back, but we'll see. Johnny in that same free agent chat says, how about Javon Kinlaw, Jets interior defensive lineman, seem to have good numbers. Could be a good pickup. I pulled his PFF numbers. Here are his PFF numbers, guys. 54, 50, 31, 53, 53.
So he's consistently under 60%.
Right. Now, again, I didn't have time to look at his like pass rush and all that stuff. If I could do it real quick here, I think I've got, if this tab don't freeze on me, let's see what happens here. Here we go. Kinlaw. Quarterback pressure percentage, 6.9%, right there where Kenny's at. And his run stop rate, he had 30 stops on 282. Yeah. For me, it would be a no, Johnny, just because it kind of feels like what we've already got here now.
So I feel like that would kind of be like when we brought in Jaron Reed, and then he got some burn, and then he's gone right back to Seattle or whatever.
Okay. Yeah.
I think that we just have too much potential sitting on the sideline and trying to come up in the ranks. That for us to go out and get somebody, it has to be an X or a Jacobs kind of guy, unless you're just filling replacement players.
Absolutely. And the other news of the day, I'm just going to mention this real quick, and we'll get out of here. I don't want to keep Emilio too long because it is Valentine's Day. Luke Getsy officially back with Green Bay. We talked about it for a while. He's been in the building for quite some time. Now official, Tom Pelissero tweeted out, the Packers are hiring Luke Getsy as senior offensive assistant in 2 previous stints in Green Bay. Getsy was a part of 5 division titles, and Aaron Rodgers won 3 NFL MVPs. Now a valued assistant reunites with Matt LaFleur. So Luke Getsy is back in Green Bay. I know some people are lower on him. I don't think this is a bad move. If it was he's the OC, I'd feel a little different about it. But you're just getting another guy back in the building who's familiar with Matt LaFleur. It's obvious he and Matt LaFleur put together a pretty damn good offense together, albeit I think he might have been the quarterback's coach at the time or maybe just an assistant. He was never the OC, I don't think. But, yeah, I just wanted to mention that came down the pike earlier today. So
you can't hide the fact that there were 5 division titles and 3 MVPs with him. I mean, it's not like he could have had the direct impact. You know how much Rodgers liked him, but I think that's super important. We've talked about it. We need to bring in some extra guys just to give extra ears, bounce ideas off of. You can't just be in a shell or bubble by yourself.
Yeah, Definitely. And then, of course, the Jacksonville Jaguars today, they completed an interview with John Eric Sullivan for their general manager position. You guys know this is one of Goody's right-hand men in the front office. Sucks if he's going to go. Hopefully he stays put so he don't have to put up with that knucklehead down there that you guys know. He'll be listening to this every day.
Duval.
I hope Matt LaFleur sends that to John Eric Sullivan, I don't know, about 6 times tonight. Like, hey, bub, think about this.
Mhm.
That's what you're going to be working.
I mean, this is what you could have.
65%.
65%. That's what we
Exactly. So John Eric Sullivan may get poached. Just wanted to mention that. We got a couple other play. We talked Kendall Fuller, a tight end, Durham Smith or Smith, however you say his name, hit the market today. PFF grades 43 and 53. No, thank you. Preston Smith back on the market. In 2023, a 70.5 PFF grade, 2024, 64.2. Again, the Packers, he wanted traded because he didn't fit Hafley's scheme. I don't see that happening. Other than that, I think we're pretty well caught up, Emilio. Any parting thoughts here?
No, man, I think it was a really fun dive to get into those numbers a little bit. I think it's just cool looking at the percentage. You think about, the Cowboys are at 30%, 20% with Dak. Jordan's at 10. Cardinals were at 15, 20 for Kyler, but then they were squared away the rest of the way. I think it's just kind of like you got to chase those numbers, figure out where your even spot is, see where you can, give yourself a little cushion. That way you always have a little potential to grow, but you do need to hammer out those numbers. No, everybody kind of has to have their spot, right? You got a manager, you got a laborer, you got a salesman, all those different things still kind of come into effect on the field there. Everybody's not going to be a superstar. Everyone's not going to have that Madden X factor, right? So you need to be able to play with what you have and save kind of a little money for spending and be able to get it done with cheap contracts too.
Yeah, definitely. Last comment here. We had it marked earlier in the show. I didn't mean to ignore it here. Mr. Jass. This is Mr. Jass in the comments. Also known as Hugh. We'll just leave it at that. Love the name, by the way. He says, Clay, is Harlan County anything like in the show Justified? And also, do you know Boyd Crowder? I do not know Boyd Crowder. I'm assuming that's an actor in the show. If you guys look at the intro to that show, it shows a smokestack right off the bat, and it's kind of the camera's rolling through a town. That's called Lynch, Kentucky, Lynch. Do with that what you will. That's about 2 minutes down the road from my childhood home where my dad still lives. It's trying to sum it up real quick here. Opioids took over in the late 90s, early 2000s real bad. It was the opioid capital of the world, is what Newsweek said. As a young guy graduating in the year 2000, I started getting mixed up with that stuff. And luckily, you guys heard about my brother passing away this year, and I'm trying not to get emotional because this is why my brother meant so much to me. He moved to Knoxville. We grew up pretty, for lack of a better word, I don't want to say we were starving or anything like that. My brother had it a lot worse than I did. He's quite a bit older than I am. He's more of a dad to me than a brother, really. He kind of took me under his wing. He was 58 years old when he passed away this year, but he went to the Army, served in our military, got on his feet in Knoxville, and before I graduated, I went ahead and moved my stuff down there to get out of that area. Now, I want to say this. Great people back home. But the way it is today compared to how it was when I was a kid, it's went downhill big time. And it's not to the fault of the people there. It's how Big Pharma and the medical community they took advantage of people back home and forced the opioids and they lied about how they were made. There's a lot of stuff we could get into. I've researched it because I won't get into too much detail, but family and friends overdosing has been just about every year, it seems like, for me. So, but yeah, that's why my brother meant so much to me, is he got me out of that situation. So is it like it is in the show? I haven't watched the show much. People always bring it up. It sounds like it's kind of a modern day Western type thing. A lot of people went missing back there. We'll just leave it at that. All right. And obviously Hollywood's going to glamour things up. That's all I got for you, but appreciate you asking that. Hopefully that answered your question there, Mr. Jass, also known as Hugh Jass. Love the name, but yeah, again, that's my brother was just, man, he's my hero. Saved my life. There's no doubt in my mind. So
absolutely.
All right, Milio, appreciate your time, brother. And
Right.
we'll see you guys in the morning for Good Morning Lambo at 8:30 a.m. Central. And you tell Jordan thanks for letting you cut away and hang out with us tonight.
Will do. You got to tell Mandy the same.
Absolutely. She's still down there asleep on the couch. She's good. So, we'll see you guys tomorrow morning. Thank y'all so much for hanging out. Have a great
There we go.
Bye, guys.